أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Lesson number 126, Surah Yusuf, ayah number 88 to 111. فَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ. So when they entered upon him, the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, they were sent by their father to go in search of Yusuf and his brothers. So first of all, they came to Egypt. Why? Because Binyamin was there, and their other brother Rubil was also there. They didn't know that Yusuf was there. So when they entered upon him, meaning they entered into his presence, into the presence of Yusuf alayhi salam, they came in front of him, they met him. قالوا, they said, Ya ayyuhal aziz. Addressing Yusuf alayhi salam, they said, O Aziz, O honorable one. Massana, it has touched us. It has afflicted us. Wa ahlana, and our families. Ad-durru, the harm. Harm, hardship, adversity has afflicted us and our families. What does it mean by dur? Dur is such hardship that could be physical and it can also be emotional. It could be because of one's own faults and it could also be because of what is written for a person, because of the decree of Allah. It could be apparent, it could be hidden. It could be illness, it could be poverty. It could be different types of dur, different types of hardship. So they say that hardship, adversity has afflicted us and our families, meaning we are suffering from very difficult times. We are suffering from very hard times. We are in great hardship, in great difficulty, financial problems, family problems. We are suffering from many problems. وَجِئْنَا, and we have come to you, بِبِضَاعَةٍ, with a merchandise, that is مُزْجَاتٍ, that is of little value. That is very trivial. We have come to you with a merchandise, with some goods that are very despicable in their value. They're worthless. Bida'a, as you know, is such a thing, such money that has been put aside for either investment or for sale. And over here, bida'a is being used for trading goods. That what they were going to give to Yusuf alayhi salam in return for food. So we have brought to you a price, a bida'a, that is muzjat. What does it mean by muzjat? Muzjat is from the root letters Zay, Jim, Waw. Zay, Jim, Waw. And Zajun is literally to drive something. What does it mean? To drive something. And it also means to repel something, to push something away. It is a sawq, to drive, as well as a dafr, to push something away. From the same root is the word yusji sahaban, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala drives the clouds. He makes them move. So muzjat is ism maf'ul, and it is that which is driven away. That which is pushed out. That which is disposed. When is something pushed away? When is something driven away? When it doesn't have any worth. When it doesn't have any value. So muzjatin, worthless. No one would be ready to accept it because of its worthlessness. So we have brought to you a merchandise that is very worthless. It is not substantial. It's not too much at all. It is said that what they had brought was very trivial, of little value. According to some, it was some grain that was green. Green means that it's not ripe. It doesn't have any value. Even if you give it to someone for free, they would not take it. Because you cannot eat it, you cannot plant it, you cannot do anything with it. But that's all they had. It is also said that what they had brought was some ropes. That's all they had left. Or some cotton, or some sandals. This is what they had brought to give in exchange for food. Because that's all that they had left. Because you can imagine the number of trips that they would have to take back and forth to buy food. And in Canaan, there was nothing that was growing because of the drought. And at the same time, they were spending so much of their time traveling. So much of their time was being consumed by family problems, by grief, by sadness. The entire situation was so depressing. So they said, وَجِئْنَا بِبِضَاعَةٍ مُزْجَاةٍ. We have come to you with a merchandise that is very poor in quality. فَأَوْفِ لَنَا الْكَيْلَ. So give us in full the measure. Meaning, the measure of grain, the measure of food, please give us in full, despite the fact that what we're offering you in return is not enough. It is worthless. It is of very poor quality. We are not wealthy anymore. We don't have any money. This is all that we have to offer. But please fulfill the measure for us. Give it to us in full. Meaning to each person, give a camel load. وَتَصَدَّقْ. And also be charitable. عَلَيْنَا. Upon us. What does it mean by this? Be charitable upon us. How? By overlooking the worthlessness of our merchandise. Just accept this from us. We know it's not enough. But please be charitable and accept it and give us a full measure. Or tasaddaq alayna, give us more than what we could buy from you. Increase. Give us something extra. Be generous towards us. Be charitable towards us. Because we are suffering from very difficult times. Others have said that وَتَصَدَّقْ عَلَيْنَا, what this means is be charitable towards us. How? By freeing our brother. By releasing our brother Binyamin. And this is said to be a stronger opinion because the Ikhwatu Yusuf, who were they? They were the sons of the Prophet of Allah, Yaqub alayhi salam. And the prophets, they do not accept charity. They do not accept charity. So وَتَصَدَّقْ عَلَيْنَا, what it means is, be charitable to us. How? By releasing our brother. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَجْزِي الْمُتَصَدِّقِينَ. Indeed, Allah will recompense, He will reward who? Those people who are charitable. So over here we see that the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, they were suffering from many problems now. Many difficulties. Not just family problems, the fact that they had lost 3 of their brothers in total by now, but they were also suffering from financial problems. They were also suffering from financial problems. So what is the lesson in this for us? That sometimes difficulties befall us because of what we have been doing previously. It's because of our pride, our jealousy, our injustice, and transgression, violation of the rights of other people. That because of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us taste the consequences of our misbehavior in this life. That we suffer from problems. We are devalued in the eyes of people. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings us down to our knees before Himself and also before others. Why? Because of our own wrongdoing. Because of our own violation of the rights of other people. We see that the same brothers who had wronged him, who had been unjust towards him, who had thrown him into the well, they were now destitute and miserable before Yusuf alayhi salam. Therefore, what should we do? If someone is being unjust towards us, we should be patient. And we should remember that Allah will take revenge for us. Allah will save us. Allah will protect us. Allah will elevate you before them. Make yourself small. Let the other do whatever he's doing, and Allah will raise you above him. Because we see that the brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam, they were an usbah, an entire group of young men, strong men. And Yusuf alayhi salam, one boy, and he was thrown into the well. But Yusuf alayhi salam, he just accepted the situation. And look at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him above the brothers, that the brothers come before him desperate for his help, desperate for his charity, desperate for his forgiveness. This is how Allah raises the one who has made himself small for the sake of Allah. Yusuf alayhi salam, upon hearing this, he was filled with pity. And he was overtaken by compassion. And then he removed the partition that was between them and him. He told them as to who he was. And how did he tell them? قال, he said, Yusuf a.s. spoke now, that هل علمتم, do you know, ما فعلتم, what you did, بيوسف, with Yusuf? Do you know what you did to Yusuf? What does it mean by this, do you know? Meaning, do you remember? Do you remember what you did with Yusuf? You treated him with so much injustice. You were jealous of him, and you threw him into the well. And not just Yusuf, وَأَخِيهِ, and also his brother, Binyamin. But when did you do that? إِذْ أَنْتُمْ جَاهِلُونَ, when you were ignorant. Look at the greatness of Yusuf a.s. Look at how he speaks to them. He does not say, while you were zalim. What does he say? You were jahilun. And what does it mean by jahilun over here? Some say that what this means is that you were children. You were sibyan. You were very young. In your foolishness, in your childishness, remember what you did to Yusuf? Remember what you did to his brother? And according to others, what jahl, what ignorance means over here is that you were ignorant, meaning you did not realize the reality of what you were doing. You were unaware, you were ignorant of the consequences of committing the act. You were unaware of it. Because if you remembered it, if you were conscious about it, if you were careful about it, you would have never done that. And it is also said, إِذْ أَنْتُمْ جَاهِلُونَ, what this means is that you were unaware of the affair of Yusuf a.s. You were unaware of how Yusuf a.s. was going to end up, where he was going to end up. We see that Yusuf a.s. does not blame them. He does not taunt them. He does not criticize them. Rather, he gives them the benefit of doubt. He says, you were ignorant. You didn't know. Because in addressing the problem this way, there is encouragement to repent for the other. By saying that you were ignorant, now you have come to know, now you have realized. By saying this, he is encouraging them in a way to repent. And there is also expression of affection on his part. And he only informs them that, do you remember what you did? And through this, he introduces himself. And remember earlier in Surah Yusuf, what did we learn? When Yusuf a.s. was thrown in the well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْهِ لَتُنَبِّئَنَّهُمْ بِأَمْرِهِمْ هَذَا وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. You will tell them someday about this affair of theirs while they do not perceive your identity. They will not know who you are. قَالُوا, they said, أَإِنَّكَ, are you indeed, لَأَنْتَ, surely you, Yusufu, Yusuf? Really, is it you, Yusuf? You mean Yusuf, our brother? Because it's possible that they knew that their Aziz's name was also Yusuf or some other version of Yusuf. Maybe the accent was changed into Egyptian. Allahu A'lam. But it's possible that they recognized some sign on him. So they said, أَإِنَّكَ لَأَنْتَ Yusuf? Is it you? Are you indeed Yusuf? Look at how the way they say it. إِنَّكَ لَأَنْتَ Yusuf. They said this in amazement. Because they had been meeting him for over many years now. Isn't it so? This was not the first trip that they had taken to Egypt. They had come many, many times before. And they had been dealing with him at a personal level as well, at many occasions. And not even once did it cross their minds that this man could have been their brother. So now they say out of amazement that, is it you? Are you really Yusuf? And they could never imagine that their brother whom they threw in the well could have been made the finance minister of Egypt. قال, he said, أنا Yusuf. Yes, I am Yusuf. وهذا أخي, and this is my brother. This moment would have been a very emotional one, especially for Yusuf a.s. But look at how he controlled himself. Look at how he controlled his emotions. He does not get overexcited or very upset. With a lot of dignity, he says, Ana Yusuf. Very short. Ana Yusuf. Yes, I am Yusuf. وَهَذَا أَخِي, and this is my brother. Meaning, Binyamin. Because Binyamin had been with Yusuf a.s. So he said, yes, this is me, Yusuf, and this is my brother. قَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. In fact, Allah has favored us. Allah has conferred great favor upon us. مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. This is the first thing that he says. He remembers the good times. He remembers the blessings. He doesn't say, yes, you threw me into the well. But you know what happened? Somebody picked me up. But then you know what happened? I was sold as a slave. He doesn't tell them about his long, sad story. He mentions the good things. قَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. Allah has bestowed great favor upon us. Manna from the root letters, Mim, Noon, Noon, and Man, as you know, means a huge favor. A great favor. What is the great favor that he is referring to over here? This great favor has been understood in many different ways. But if you think about it, he says, مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا, upon us. Us meaning all of us brothers. How? That he has caused all of us to meet after such a long time. After such a long time, he has caused all of us to meet. This is a blessing of Allah, a big blessing. Imagine this is a family, almost a family reunion, without the parents at this point. But look at how Yusuf a.s. takes this as a favor of Allah. There is no pride in this. This is a favor of Allah. Others have said that what it means by مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا, we over here refers to Yusuf a.s. and Binyamin. Because he says, وَهَذَا أَخِي قَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. Allah has bestowed favor upon us. By choosing us, by protecting us, by giving us many blessings, by uniting all of us together. إِنَّهُ, indeed he, مَن يَتَّقِي, whoever fears who? Allah. Whoever has taqwa, وَيَصْبِرْ, and he is also patient, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. That indeed Allah does not waste the reward of who? Those people who do ihsan. Who? The person who has taqwa and the person who is patient. Allah does not waste his reward. And this is the lesson, this is the moral of the entire story of Yusuf a.s. Sabr and taqwa. And remembering that this is ihsan. And Allah will not waste the reward of someone who does sabr and someone who has taqwa. What does it mean by this? The one who has taqwa. Taqwa of who? Of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who fears Allah, and because of that fear, he stays away from disobeying Allah. No matter what he's going through. No matter what he's going through. When he's thrown into the well, he does not yell and scream. He does not make plans of taking revenge. When he's sold as a slave even, he does not boast about who he is. When he's kept as a slave, he is honest. When he is tempted by evil, he resists. This is what? Fear of Allah. And when he is given the choice of either committing haram or going to prison, he chooses to go to prison. This is taqwa of Allah, fear of Allah. And when it comes to fulfilling a responsibility, he does not prefer his own comfort, his own family, over his responsibility. Taqwa. مَن يَتَّقِي, he who fears Allah, وَيَصْبِرْ, and he is also patient. Patient when? At the time of test, at the time of trial, at the time of difficulty, and on acts of obedience, despite the difficulties. Just look at all the difficulties that Yusuf a.s. went through. The jealousy of his brothers, being thrown into the well, being sold for a very little price, and living as a slave, and then temptation, and then imprisonment, in jail, when coming out of jail, when hearing false accusations. وَيَصْبِرْ, and he is patient. The one who keeps this attitude of fearing Allah and remaining patient, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah does not waste the reward of those who do ihsan. Allah will definitely give him reward. Allah will definitely reward him in this world and also in the hereafter. We see over here that Yusuf a.s. is very forgiving and generous towards his brother at this point, when he was fully capable of taking revenge from them. fully capable. He could have yelled at them. He could have put them behind bars immediately. He could have done anything that he wanted because he had authority and they're coming before him in a very desperate situation. But we see that when you deal with people and you are becoming successful and the other person is losing, there are three possibilities. One is that you win and the other person loses completely. You win and the other person loses completely. What's another possibility? That you lose and the other wins. If the first thing happens, you'll be very happy, the other person will be very sad. The second situation, you will be very sad and the other person will be very happy. What's another possibility? That you win and the other wins as well. And this was the attitude of Yusuf a.s. Although he is winning over here, but he does not come down on his brothers. What does he talk about? The blessing of Allah upon all of them. This is the time when his brothers must have been feeling horrible, extremely embarrassed. But what does he say? Allah has been so good to us. Allah has been so generous towards us. He has blessed us so much. So he's winning and he's also making them feel as if they are winning. He's talking about good things. And this is the noble quality of Yusuf a.s. This is the noble quality that he possessed. That in every situation, in every position we see, that if he is in a position where he is winning, he wants to make sure that the other person is also winning somehow. Like for example, where the woman, when he was brought out of the prison, when he was invited, and when he was given the offer, come out of the prison, how does he refer to that woman? That woman who tempted me? What does he say? What is the state of the women? He uses a general term because he does not want her to look bad. And then she confesses as well. And Yusuf a.s. says, وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي, I'm not saying that I'm very pure. So we see this as a very noble quality in Yusuf a.s. And this quality can only be in the person who is humble, who is not arrogant, who is a well-wisher, who wants good for himself and he also wants good for the other. We see that Yusuf a.s. is at such a high position and his brothers before him are helpless. They're imploring his help. This was his chance to take revenge. If nothing else, he could have said some few harsh words. But he does nothing of that sort. And this is the highest of character. This is the best character. To not embarrass the other person when you can embarrass them. Do not put the other person to shame when you can do that. Generally what happens, if a person makes a mistake, immediately people begin to make fun of him. He becomes a target of ridicule. And sometimes, it's not just with the people whom we dislike that we make fun of, it's even with those whom we love. We start making fun of them. A child will perhaps make a mistake and people will start laughing, ruining his confidence, ruining his self-esteem forever, shattering him from inside. This is a horrible thing to do. Making the other person feel embarrassed, humiliating him. And a person who does this, it comes back to him. Even he is humiliated. And a person who takes care of the other's heart, of the other person's honor, then Allah will honor him. But a person who humiliates the other, Allah will humiliate him. إِنَّهُ مَن يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. The one who has taqwa of Allah and the one who is patient at all times, even at times of victory. Not just at times of hardship, but even at times of victory. When a person is overcoming his enemy, when a person has the upper hand over his enemy, when he has the authority, he can take revenge, but he fears Allah, and even at that point he is patient. Then what is he doing? Ihsan. Allah will definitely reward him. So what do we see? That who is a real muhsin? We have learned a lot about who a muhsin is in this surah, but two characteristics we learned from this ayah. And what are those two characteristics? Sabr and taqwa. What is taqwa? That a person is the same when he is alone and when he is in front of the people. He fears Allah. It's not that in front of some people he becomes very good. He becomes very good in his behavior, in his character. No. No matter where he is, no matter who he's dealing with, his akhlaq is consistent. His obedience to Allah is consistent. Whether he is in the jail, or he is a slave, or he is being tempted by evil, he fears Allah. Whether he is amongst Muslims or non-Muslims, he fears Allah. He is the same. He is consistent. And what is sabr? To hold yourself back from negative reactions. And a person who has these two qualities, Allah will not waste his reward. Allah will compensate him somehow or the other in this world. Somehow or the other, Allah will compensate him. قالوا, they said, Tallahi, by Allah, لَقَدْ آثَرَكَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. Certainly Allah has preferred you over us. Now the brothers of Yusuf a.s., they acknowledge the superiority of Yusuf. It was very difficult for them to see it. Very difficult for them. To the point that they could not tolerate their father liking Yusuf a.s. And they wanted that he should be removed away. يَخْلُ لَكُمْ وَجْهُ أَبِيكُمْ. But now they're forced to confess that Allah has definitely preferred you over us. آثَرَ يُؤْثِرُ إِيثَارُ. From the root letters, Hamza, Tha, Ra. Which is to give preference to someone. To choose someone. So Allah has preferred you. How? With knowledge. With beauty. With good behavior. With many good qualities. Allah has preferred you over us, such that Allah saved you despite the fact that we wanted to finish you. Allah honored you despite the fact that we wanted to humiliate you. Allah gave you good despite the fact that we wanted bad for you. Allah has preferred you over us. What does this teach us? That if Allah wants good for someone, no one can deprive that person of that good. No one can take it away from them. So if you feel that somebody is trying to harm you, remain calm. If this is written for me, I will definitely get it, no matter what other people do. No matter what they try to do. No matter how much they try to defame me, no matter how much they try to insult me, no matter how much they try to harm me, they cannot take it away from me. لَقَدْ آثَرَكَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. And this also teaches us something very important, that we must accept the fadila of other people over us. That if Allah has preferred some people over us, we must accept. Because this is Allah's choice, this is His decree. And if we don't accept it, we will be put in a situation where we have no choice but to accept it. Because they were in constant denial, the brothers of Yusuf a.s., from the very beginning. Constantly they were in denial. To the point when, after so many years, when their father was remembering Yusuf, what did they say? Forget about him. Forget about him. You will continue to remember until you will die. Forget him. This is how much they disliked Yusuf a.s., that after so many years, when Binyamin, when he is accused of theft, who do they remember? Yusuf. Even then they're trying to show him as bad. لَقَدْ آثَرَكَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا. They're forced over here to accept His superiority. So if we don't accept the truth, we will be forced to accept it. وَإِن كُنَّا. And indeed we have been لَخَاطِئِينَ. Surely ones at fault. خاطئ is the singular of خاطئين, from the root letters خا, ta, hamza. And khata is a mistake. It's also said that khata is a mistake that is deliberate, that is intentional. We have surely been sinful. We have been at fault. How? How? That we have been treating you disgracefully. We have been unfair to you. And in this is the greatness of the brothers of Yusuf a.s. That they admit their mistake and they acknowledge the status of Yusuf a.s. We see that previously, the woman also, she acknowledged her mistake, and she acknowledged the truthfulness, the status of who? Yusuf a.s. And this is another unique quality of Yusuf a.s., that he turned his enemies into his friends. He turned his enemies into his friends. How? with his taqwa and with his sabr. He did not compromise. He did not give up. He did not show any impatience. He did not take any revenge. He achieved this how? By not taking things in his hands, but rather leaving everything in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We think that if we want to become victorious, if we want to be successful, then we have to take control of our matters. But the fact is, our responsibility is that we have to have taqwa, we have to do sabr, and Allah will take care of the rest. So we see over here that the brothers of Yusuf a.s., they accept their fault. They accept their mistake. And our attitude should also be the same. That if we have done something wrong, and we see our mistake, instead of denying it, we should confess. We should accept it. We should accept it. Because if we accept it, only then can we be appreciated. Because over here we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way is appreciating them. Because He mentions their good words. He mentions their words of confession. So when a person accepts his mistake, then Allah appreciates him. Especially when a person admits his mistake in front of the victim, in front of the one whom he has oppressed. That you were right and I was wrong. Because this statement itself is very difficult to say. It's very, very difficult to say, you were right, I was wrong. Qala, he said. Meaning, Yusuf a.s., what was his response? That yes, you've been wrong. I was right. No, he doesn't say anything of that sort. He says, لا تثريب عليكم اليوم. There is no blame upon you this day. Today, there is no blame upon you. You will not be reproached. Why does he mention today? Because that day was when they expected the most reproach. Right? That's the day when they expected it most. So if there's no reproach today, obviously there's no reproach afterwards. لا تثريب. Tathrib is from the root letters sa, ra, ba. And tathrib literally means to peel the flesh off of the eyes. So it's literally like peeling someone's eyes off. This is to punish brutally, to punish very severely. Very severely. Severe punishment. And from this, it is used for scolding someone, rebuking someone, reproaching someone over their fault. Reproaching someone over their fault. Like the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said that when the amata ahadikum, the slave woman of one of you, commits zina, فَلْيَجْلِدْهَا, then he should only flog her, وَلَا يُثَرِّبْ, and he should not reproach her. He should not censure her. He should not blame her. Do you understand? That when a person is being punished for a crime that he has committed, the punishment should be given. But there should be no tathrib. What does tathrib mean? That you say harsh words to them. You reproach them. You make them feel bad by saying things over and over and over again. So what does Yusuf a.s. say? لا تثريب عليكم اليوم. Obviously no punishment, but no blame even. And I will not remind you after today of your error against me. And we will see how Yusuf a.s. did not mention what his brothers did after this. يَغْفِرُ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. Allah will forgive you, meaning may Allah forgive you. He forgives his brothers, and he also prays for their forgiveness. وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. And he is the most merciful of those who show mercy. So we see over here that Yusuf a.s., look at his big heart. That he does not have anything against them. He does not have anything against them. He does not take any revenge. He does not even reproach them. And he says that the chapter is now closed. We won't talk about this again. It's over. It's finished. After today, we're not talking about it. This is what forgiveness is. This is what it means by truly forgiving someone. That you don't hold anything in your heart, and you don't even reproach them, and you don't even remind them of what they have done afterwards. If you remind them later, you have not forgiven them. If you keep a grudge in your heart, again, you have not forgiven them. And until you forgive the other person, you cannot be at peace. You cannot be a happy person. In order to be happy, in order to live peacefully, you have to forgive others. You cannot keep grudges in your heart. Because if you keep a grudge in your heart, if you keep that anger in your heart, then what's going to happen? It's going to eat you up. The other person may be okay, but you are going to destroy yourself. You are going to be sad. So we see that Yusuf a.s., he forgives them completely, and he says this chapter is closed, we're not talking about this ever again. What happens with us? If somebody's hurt us, very slightly, forget about what the brothers of Yusuf a.s. did to him. Forget about that. But think about what people do to us. What happens? We talk about it over and over and over again. We keep reminding them. We keep reminding ourselves. We keep reminding other people. And because of that, we can never forgive them. Because of that, we can never be happy. What's the secret to happiness? Forgive and forget. And you'll never regret. You'll never regret because it will make you happy. Just think about all that the brothers of Yusuf a.s. had done to him. Just think about it. And all that he had to suffer because of that. And this was not for a month or two, a year or two, but it affected his entire life. He had to suffer one problem after the other. He had to bear the separation from his family, from his loving father. But despite that, he does not take any revenge. And on top of that, he even makes dua. He even makes dua. Just look at his big-heartedness. And this can only come from a person who has left his affairs to Allah. That Allah, you take care of me. You handle my affairs. You are my wakil. Upon you I trust. We see that when a person is like that, only then he can be patient. Only then he can think positively. Only then he can continue to obey Allah. Only then he can continue to make dua. And only then can he be productive. If Yusuf a.s., if he kept this grudge all his life, and he thought about his brothers all his life, and he entertained feelings of revenge all his life, you think he would get to the position that he was in today? No. He would never have been able to achieve that position. Because when a person keeps anger and revenge and frustration in his heart, then all of his energies are directed towards that. All of them. But when a person ignores, when a person leaves it to Allah, he says, Allah, you deal with it. You sent this my way. I accept it because it's coming from you. Then what happens? A person gets to be patient. A person gets to be forgiving. And then he can do something in his life. And we see that the Prophet ﷺ as well, he recited this ayah when he conquered Makkah. When he entered into Makkah, at the conquest, he recited this ayah as well. That لا تثريب عليكم اليوم يغفر الله لكم وهو أرحم الراحمين. And if you think about it, the people of Makkah, they had persecuted the Prophet ﷺ for so many years. So many years. And when he entered Makkah as the head of the state, what did he say? May Allah forgive you. I'm not going to punish you. I'm not going to take any revenge. So then what happened? He said to his brothers, اذهبوا بقميصي هذا. Take this, my shirt. اذهبوا, take, بقميصي, with my shirt, هذا, this one. Meaning, take this shirt of mine. Where? To my father. Qamis is from the root letters qaf, mim, sad. We have done this word earlier as well. And qamis is basically used for a shirt that is worn on the upper part of the body. A dress, a gown. It could be just a shirt that comes up to the waist, and it could also be something that comes below that. So he said, take this shirt of mine, هذا, this one, فَأَلْقُوهُ, and then you cast it, عَلَى وَجْهِ أَبِي, upon the face of my father. Cast it on the face of my father. What does it mean by this? We learned that at this point, the brothers of Yusuf a.s., they told Yusuf about the state of their father. Because obviously he must have asked them that how is my father doing? How is he feeling now? Because perhaps all that had happened until Binyamin came, he got the update from Binyamin. But now what happened since Binyamin was here? He knew that his father must have been very, very sad. So they informed him that he had become blind. Or perhaps Allah had informed him that he had become blind, because Yusuf a.s. was also a prophet of Allah. So he said to them that take this shirt of mine and put it on my father. يَأْتِ بَصِيرًا, he will become seeing, meaning he will come out from under the shirt seeing. His vision will return to him. وَأْتُونِي, and all of you come to me, بِأَهْلِكُمْ, with your families, أَجْمَعِينَ, all together. What was this shirt? There are different opinions about this shirt. Some say that this shirt was actually the shirt of Ibrahim a.s. It belonged to him. And this is the shirt that Yusuf a.s. was wearing when he was thrown into the well. Do you remember? When he was thrown into the well, this shirt he was wearing at that time. And this shirt was a shirt from Jannah, according to some people, that this was a shirt from Jannah. It was not an ordinary shirt. And from Ibrahim a.s. it came to Ishaq a.s., from whom it came to Yaqub a.s., from whom it came to Yusuf a.s. And the brothers of Yusuf a.s. were very envious because of that. So they threw him into the well, and he happened to be wearing that shirt at that time. And this is the shirt which Ibrahim a.s. was wearing when he was thrown into the fire. Remember, when his people, his father and the rest of his family, they threw him into the fire, Ibrahim a.s. was wearing that shirt. And the fire did not touch him. However, there is no strong evidence to support this opinion. There is no strong evidence behind that. Because even if Yusuf a.s. was wearing a shirt at that time, what did we learn? They had taken his shirt with blood on it, right? And if he did have a shirt on him at that time, he was sold into slavery, and then a slave doesn't really have control over his possessions or anything of his. It had been so many years. From there he was sent to the prison, and in the prison he spent so much time. And if even he had that shirt, it wouldn't fit him anymore, so how could he keep it, right? So Allahu A'lam, this shirt was just another shirt. It was an ordinary shirt, a shirt that belonged to Yusuf a.s. And the fact that this shirt, when it was put onto Yaqub a.s. and when it was removed, Yaqub a.s., his vision returned to him, it was not because of the shirt. It was rather because of the miracle of Yusuf a.s. Because just like Musa a.s. had a staff, right? It was an ordinary staff. But through the staff, Musa a.s. would also perform miracles. Correct? He threw it into the water, and the water parted. He struck the stone with it, and from the stone came out water. So this shows that it's not the staff, because if it was the staff, then it would do only one thing. Either cause the water to flow, or cause the water to go away. Right? But we see that it was exactly opposite what was happening. Similarly, Isa a.s. was also given many miracles, and of them was that he would wipe his hand over who? A person who was ill, and he would become fine. He would cure the blind. He would cure the leper. This was what? A miracle that was given to Isa a.s. Similarly, this was a miracle that was given to Yusuf a.s. That he was able to cure the blindness of his father. How? With his shirt. Because he himself could not go. He himself would not go to Canaan. Why? Again, why would he not go? Because of his responsibility. Look at the sense of responsibility. He did not leave. He did not even put anyone else over there. Why? Because this was very, very important. If he left, so many people would suffer from hunger. So many people would die because of that. So he did not even go himself, and he could not go himself, so what did he send instead? His shirt. So he said, take this shirt of mine, put it on my father, and he will become basir. His vision will return to him. And when his vision returns, وَأْتُونِي بِأَهْلِكُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ, then come to me, all of you, with your families. Meaning, all of you come to Egypt and live here with me. This is when Yusuf a.s. called his entire family from Canaan to live in Egypt with him. And this is when Bani Israel moved from Canaan to Egypt.
We'll listen to the recitation of these ayat and we'll move on.